share the video.
Yeah.
And then you can just find it on my J Everything page, the JVRTHNG. The business of dance as a career choice. You know what? It kind of flows.
Yeah.
And then usually it just takes a couple minutes just for everything to start loading. Hopefully it goes good. And then for your IG tag, I just put as Beverly Jane B on Facebook and Instagram. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome. Okay. And then I'm going to go share it as well. Share to newsfeed. Oh gosh. Usually like the first 5 minutes is just me like looking around at the camera, so I try not to be too awkward right away. I was like, all right, try to look busy,
Yeah.
type some things. Plus just like, all right. I still working out some kinks, so I tell everyone as I do the podcast, like I subtly change like one thing at a time. Cause like I was
Mhm.
having this conversation earlier today, like so many people have like the what is that called? Like they're such perfectionists when it comes being a creative. They're like, oh, I don't want to
Yeah.
release content until it's perfect. Then like next month comes around and like it's finally perfect, but now a new thing coming out and now you're behind on technology. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, now I got to learn all this.
I am definitely guilty of that, and I commend you for just for learning it and going through the kinks of it and knowing through experience what to do and what not to do. So,
I don't know.
yeah.
Me and my coworker have like so many plans for TikTok right now. Oh man, we're gonna be hilarious. But like we're just like so afraid of like these 12 and 13-year-olds talking crap about us. We're like, oh man.
They are fearless. They're fearless.
I don't know. I was like, man, what's this 34-year-old trying to get on our platform for?
But you know what? There are a lot of people, old and young, getting on that platform and doing a lot of stuff with it, and not just TikTok dances. So
I don't know.
I
Well,
appreciate
the thing is too is like I like I'm old school. I like buying books or like audiobooks and stuff. So if there's no
that.
book on it, I really don't know how to reference it because usually like when I see an article on a website, I don't like
Yeah,
listening to it because like I either just don't trust the author or I always think
yeah,
people online they're just trying to push out content just for the sake of pushing out content.
yeah.
So then
Well,
I'm
that's
just
what
like,
I'm taught to do in school is to make sure that we check to have valid resources. So I think that just goes with everything that we read and everything that we consume. We have to know who wrote that and why are they writing that and what perspective are they writing that from. So
I know, especially if it's linked to like a big corporate website. You're like, all right, who's sponsoring this article?
hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. Rachel's in the room. What up, Rachel? Rachel gives you a big hug.
Hi, Rachel. I
Uh,
miss you.
like right when I posted it, she like messaged me right away. She was like, I'm tuning in.
Love that woman.
All right, let me just keep looking around. Let me just test a couple things. Just gotta finish up some last minute notes.
What's that called? Like
Nice.
the couple things.
Okay, I think I'm good on my end. Did you pull up the actual window on like your phone or your computer or anything? Can you see it?
Hmm.
All right, perfect. Let's just wait a little bit. Okay. And I always apologize to everyone right away. I'm like, yeah, it's such a like weird time for me like to do this. So it's like I'm
Yeah,
not getting the most optimal like viewing audience, but honestly
yeah,
this
yeah.
for me it's just like I put the kids to sleep and they're asleep. So like this is the only time I can do it.
You know what?
So I'm just
You
like,
do
yeah,
you do what's
whatever.
convenient for you.
Yeah. And I think with everything going on this year we're all just like at the what's really most important is like friends and family. So like they're
Yeah,
always like my right now, like well, not just right now but just in general for everyone, that needs to be your priority. Like your business, your career, whatever, that comes second. When you have time to do all that, do it. But
yeah.
especially now it's just like, especially with my kids, they're all just getting like older. My daughter's turning 5 soon. I'm just like, oh my
Wow,
gosh, I don't even know what to do. Like
that's
she does.
amazing.
I was like when she was like 2 and 3, I would come home. She's like running and screaming at the door. Now like she's 4, she's like watching Paw Patrol and doesn't even run to me anymore. I'm like, wow, where did this
Oh,
go? I was like, are
you're
you not
like,
excited for this anymore? Okay, well, enough of that. Let's go ahead and get this started. So, customary to the show and the podcast, I'd like to raise a glass to my guest.
Yay.
And Beverly, you obviously probably don't know this because I wouldn't have told you this anyway. But you were my famous friend. Everyone has that famous friend where like you just in conversation and passing, be like, I turn the TV on because I know you'd be on TV, or I pull up a video because I know you'd be in a video, and I'd just casually say, "Yeah, we were in the same dance crew." Like I told everyone we used to dance together. Like obviously we didn't, but I just like to say like because there's no way they can't fact check that. They don't know. So I just want to say
I
thank you
appreciate
for being my famous friend.
it.
Thanks for joining me, and
Yes,
let's have a great show.
yes.
And perfect. And if you will, for the people watching now and the people that will be watching on the replay, can you give yourself or introduce yourself and kind of just tell them what you've been up to in the last couple of years?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Beverly Bautista. I am currently a graduate student at University of California in Irvine, and I am getting my MFA in dance. And for the past almost 11 years, I've been living in California, working as a professional dancer and choreographer and teacher. And now I am looking to further my education so that I can really invest in the next generation of dancers and teachers. So I am on this journey. I'm really thankful for Jay for inviting me. So again, thank you, Jay, for inviting me to be on this. I am learning just as much as you are. And I'm really thankful for my career as a professional dancer, doing stuff with Nicki Minaj and Pepsi and various award shows and Disney and Lip Sync Battle. But at the end of it all, I am just thankful for that experience so that I could bring that into what I do and what I love to do, which is teach and talk more about, getting to new levels. So, yeah.
And I'm really excited for you to talk about your future aspects and your future goals. But I
Yeah.
will just start the show. I'd like to start the show with a nice loaded question just to set the tone of the podcast,
Yeah.
so we can just settle down, dig in, and get
Yeah.
straight to business. So
Yeah.
you touched on everything you've done, hence you're my famous friend, and I take credit for a lot of your success. Uh, so when looking back at your experience starting off, all the struggles that you've been through, all the heartaches and the learning processes
Yeah.
that you had to go through firsthand, and now looking at how it is now with the more focus of dance through the mainstream media, whether it's for ABDC, So You Think You Can Dance, World of Dance. What are your thoughts on the overall perception of dance as a career, specifically on the opportunity standpoint?
Yeah, so the opportunities in dance have definitely changed since I first started. So I can only speak from my perspective. So I just want to put a disclaimer that this is from my perspective and not as a general perspective. So from what I've experienced in my, in the perception of dance and the pros and cons of it, I would say that the cons of the perception of dance are that it's this microwave thing, and that you can be famous through a TikTok video that consists of 15 seconds, right? And to me, that's a slap in my face to all the work that I've done as a teacher and wanting to be still does the physical practice of it, because being in my mid-30s and still dancing, that is really tough on the body, right? And that's not something that people normally do. And so I do want to say that the pros of it is that you get to see dance in all these different medias, and whether it's on TV and you see it with a live stream kind of thing, whether it's World of Dance or So You Think You Can Dance, which are really great opportunities to see dance. And also the Dancing with the Stars, I feel like there are a lot of really great outlets to see dance. And then even beyond that, just recently I was able to see dance being in films like Prom, which is on Netflix right now, or Jingle Jangle, which is a Christmas movie. And so I think there are a lot of really great things that are being developed and created with dance in it. And I think that's important because it just enhances a production. So yeah, I don't like the microwave aspect of it, that people think that you can just dance in 14 days and that's it, and you made it. So, it's an ever evolving craft, and just like when it comes to business, it's always changing. So if you're not staying up to times with it and evolving with it, you're gonna get stuck into this hole. So I think it's, as we've said in conversation before, that you have to surround yourself with people and that will make you better and that are better than you. And that's why I'm getting my MFA in dance, so that I can be surrounded by those people, so it can, help me create this different curriculum and find a new perspective when it comes to dance. So, what I mainly do is jazz, with some social dance and some perspective of like hip hop choreography. So yeah, all of that.
and one of those things too is like, right when you say the whole TikTok and like the Instagram, the social media thing. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, when you look back at your career, because the barrier of entry is like so low now, and like the perception is just like, oh, you do a 10-second video and you can make millions. And just like, really? I went to school for all this? No, that's not what it is. It's like, man, that's so disrespectful.
Right.
Yeah. So right. Like from my perspective, like for me as like a photographer and videographer, like the iPhone 10 came out and they're like, yo, check it out, I'm making all these movies. Like, I don't need to hire you to do all that. Like, no, that's not what it's about. There's so many ins and outs and intricacies to it, where as a creative, it's like so frustrating. You're just like, no, there's so much more. There's so much more out there. Just listen to me, not them.
Yeah. And I get it, right? When you can invest in stuff in the deeper parts of that, when it comes to like a photographer that you want to work with and collaborate, I feel like that's a really great opportunity to create something amazing. But when it comes to stuff that you're just trying to put out, you can just use your smartphone, unfortunately. and I think that's a great starting point. But I think for the people who do have a growth mindset and want to evolve what they're doing creatively, I think that's when it comes to the point of investing in those people who are proficient in that, right? I'm not just going to get some app to do a telehealth app for myself, right? I need to find a doctor who does that. So what difference is that when it comes to what you do as photography and what I do as dance, right?
Yeah. And I think the tough part is too, like as someone that, sees the arts as a career, you're just like, is what I'm doing what the public wants anymore? Like, am I, like, it's like that battle of like, do I need to dumb down what I do just so I'm more accessible to everyone? Or do I stay true and like find my niche and just like give my heart out into like my one thing that takes 20 hours to do when I see this
Yeah.
other guy on TikTok that puts a 20-second video out. And I'm just like, man, this guy's a millionaire. Come on, man.
Right. And I think that comes down to the patience aspect of it, because one of my best friends, her name is Gigi Torres. She is an amazing dancer, choreographer, teacher, entrepreneur. She is all about entrepreneurship and creative entrepreneurship. And so what I've learned a lot from her specifically is that, you know, the world's not ready to hear everything that we have to say all in one sitting, because we've done extensive research in what we do.
Right.
And so just imagine trying to word vomit all of that to one person. It needs to go out in ways that they can understand it and you know, have it be this gradual thing to build that following. And so that's what I'm learning. You know, not everyone's going to be interested in learning about the history of dance and, you know, and certain aspects of it when it comes to research. But what is being seen in the mainstream media are these dances, which is fine. And it's cool to see dance being put out in a way that's open for the public. But for the people that want to go deeper, those are the people who I want to talk to, you know? So.
And I think you hit it like right on the head. The thing is like, it's a great starting point. Like it's perfect. Like, yeah, that's what it's about. But like, there's so many layers and levels to it. It's like, when you're ready, hit me up. I'll tell you the rest. It's perfect.
Exactly.
And that's how I see it. So I'm just like, yeah, you could do all that, but like, there's so much to it. And like, when you see like the intricacies of it, you're going to be so much more appreciative of it. But just like you said, not everyone's ready for that. And I think as creatives, we're just not ready to hear that. They're like, how come you don't want all this knowledge? Like, that I'm just ready to give to you. How do you not want this? What's your problem?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that serves as a great segue to my follow-up question. With all that being said, like I said, you're in school for it. You're currently, I believe you're doing your thesis for it. What do you think is one thing that continues to surprise you, or is one thing that you just haven't gotten used to? Like, whether it being from like the performance standpoint as a dancer, a choreographer, teaching, or, you know, in your future aspects as business and social media marketing and like sales even.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you're talking about. Something that still continues to surprise me is the involvement of social media. So since I was born on the cusp of being a Gen X in the Gen X region and the Gen Y, which is considered millennials, I didn't grow up with social media throughout. Like I think I started off with Facebook, but then halfway into my, I think halfway, maybe 20 years later, there was Instagram. And I was really resistant of Instagram. And when I finally went on it, it was like pulling teeth to just share. And then now there's Instagram Reels, and there's there's IGTV, and all of that is really great when it comes to a marketing standpoint. And I'm constantly learning how to do that. And and just what's, you know, to me, it's what's appropriate, because the people that follow me are also young people as well. So I want to be mindful about the stuff that I post. And also, I don't want to be just posting negative content. I'm about posting what I'm for and not necessarily what I'm against. So so that journey of being able to share my work has been a really huge thing. I don't know if you know this, share your work. Another one is steal like an artist. And the third one is removed from my brain at the second. But the thing that I love about his books is that they're so simple to read, but they are really encouraging when it comes to creative work and putting your work out there, because there's always, you know, like we were talking about before, there's that perfectionism aspect of it. When all you have to do is share it, and you don't know who you're stopping yourself from being able to share that too. So I feel like I need to remind that to myself. That's why I'm saying it. But that's what, to answer your question, that's what surprises me and is always so difficult about social media is what to share. And I'm constantly just trying to remember, okay, what are my values? What is my mission statement? How can I keep continuing to share that so that what I'm sharing is consistent and not just, anything that I want to, but it's being really purposeful. So,
Yeah. And I think like as creatives, like we're especially I guess like susceptible to like the perfectionism like
yes.
fault, because just like you
Yeah.
said, it's like we're so worried about like putting out like pristine, amazing, perfected content. We're just
Yeah.
being left in the dust by someone that just like, oh, new feature, let me just do a quick little dance and point to motivational fucking phrases and shit like
It's like to these things,
it's like
I'm gonna edit it in.
I spent 10 hours trying to, perfect this one video, and then this guy spent like 5 minutes doing this and showed a little bit of flexibility and some special effects, and they just got like
Yeah.
crazy viewership. And it's just like, oh
Yeah.
man. And that's exactly why like I started the podcast. Like I've been telling people the reason I do live is because I just want to get content out there, and for
Yeah.
people that aren't or won't accept me for like the edited version of me, I'm just like, maybe
Yeah.
I just don't really care about what you have to say anymore. Like I
Yeah.
think now in
Great.
business we kind of look at it as it takes so much time to convert someone to be a fan. You're going to
Yeah.
save so much time just looking for people that share your values, and from
I
there
love
we can just
that.
grow a lot or much more exponentially with that. So and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's crazy too because it's just like, especially for people like us, people look at us, or I mean more so you, like you said, you have younger students, they're like, oh man, I wonder what their thoughts on this are. And you just like you said, you're like, you don't want to share anything negative, but at the same time you're just
Yeah.
like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what I should put, but I want to be encouraging. So it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, you're just stuck in like this gray area. You're just like,
Well, it's interesting that you say negative, and when it comes to being honest. So to me there's a difference between being negative and being honest. And negative to me is just complaining without
right,
actually having a
right, right,
solution
right.
in mind, right? And to me that's honestly gossip. And I hope I hope that when I do have a one-on-one conversation with a friend or a student, that if they're asking my true opinion on something, that I'm actually honest with them and not just trying to give my opinion because that's how I feel so strongly about. But I know that one of my strengths is being compassionate. So I am always wanting to hear the other side of the situation. So if there's something that I don't agree with, I'll say that I don't agree with it. But it I think it helps to be honest. But when it comes to being negative, I think I know that for myself, I always constantly try to find a solution rather than just complain. So
Yeah, and I think
yeah,
that's one of those things that's really tough. So like kind of piggybacking on the whole like opinionative and just giving your opinion about something, perfect
yeah,
setup for what I want to my next question to be. I think there's a lot that has to be said, or it comes along with being said, of someone choosing a career path, especially in the arts. And for you and me, being Asian Filipino descent, we're expected to be a certain type of way. You're supposed to be nurses or choose something in medical field. What do you
yeah.
think is about that is the most frustrating, having that added pressure and all these outside forces kind of just speaking negatively or kind of just conform you into something you don't want to be? And like, what do you take away from that as being and how that kind of steers you away from choosing these non-traditional roles or careers?
Yeah, so going back on the compassionate aspect of, if someone were to not even overtly be crazy to me, but covertly question what I'm doing, I think I have to go at it from the aspect of, okay, how did they grow up, and was the reason why they chose this path of, the quote unquote stereotype of all Filipinos are nurses and all Filipinos are this, and that's awesome. Like this is not me throwing shade to anyone who is going into that field. I appreciate you and I respect you,
We
and
need you.
y'all are our frontline workers, so I appreciate it. And but when it comes to people who are naysaying what I decide to do, I have to think about where they're coming from and thinking that they did not have aspects to or a perspective shown on them with what art can do, and maybe that wasn't their interest. So as much as I can talk about this from the perspective of that I don't agree with them, I understand it from their perspective, you know, whatever that case may be. But I think that puts even more pressure on myself as an artist to be excellent,
Yeah.
and I have to be careful of that, because I understand the hustle, and that's important, and that's important to be excellent when it comes to that stuff. But when it comes to my piece and trying to work towards ambition and success in a way that's unhealthy, that's a problem.
Right.
So I have to be mindful of that, right? You yourself have a family, and so you need to make sure that you put your priority of your family first so that you can do the thing that you need to do, right? And so for myself, I know that school is a priority for me right now. So I want to make sure that I get into this so that I am put in a position where I can fight for, you know, to be paid for what I'm worth, you know, because I know that that's something with dancers and with professional dancers that they struggle with a lot. So I'm really, really thankful to be surrounded by people who are also professional and also excellent in their craft to give me advice when it comes to people who are lowballing me for what I do.
Right.
And and so and that's honestly a huge reason why I am going and furthering my education when it comes to my MFA in dance, because I believe that as a dancer and as an educator, I'm bringing and elevating my craft to a new level. So and putting dance in a way that it can be perceived as something great to be a part of, you know, and not just this stereotype.
Right. Yeah, and I think when you add like another level to it, it's just like with the advancement of like social media and like the toxicity that comes along with it. And I used the phrase earlier, just like 2022, 2019, everyone's just been showing their ass lately. It's just like, man, there's so much negativity and and so much like insanity that comes along with, you know, the hate, the haterations, and everyone's just like being so negative about everything. Like it's just like, I feel so bad for people coming up with it, especially the generation that grew up with social media. I strongly believe that that's why like depression's so high and anxiety is so high, like suicide. It's because when you're not, I don't want to say dependent on social media, but you're just overexposed to it, it's hard to build like those coping mechanisms just to deal with it. And especially having that added pressure of whether it's your parents, whether it's your social group, whether it's just people on the internet, especially when you're in dance or in the arts, people are just, such a subjective career. They're like, oh, that's good, but we're looking for something else. I like you, I like what you're doing, but there's something about your type. And like, that's what I find like real crazy. And like, I think that what I think is kind of showing a lot more light now is like the inclusion, different body types, different people, different cultures. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you and your group are kind of expanding on that idea and what you're doing to make sure you can instill that to your students and the people that follow you?
So I am currently working on my thesis, and my thesis is circling a lot around my Asian American identity. So being Filipino and then also being American, and trying to figure out what that means with it being, you know, like what is that hybrid together? I feel like it has caused me to talk more to especially different people of color to talk about their experience in dance. And I think it's so great to see different body types and different ethnicities being represented in the media. when it comes, and also people being really aware of that, whether it's faculty on a dance convention or faculty in an academic institution. I think when it comes to taking the real internal look of, whether or not that is represented wherever you work at, I think it's important to ask yourself that question. Why isn't, blank represented here? Or why isn't, or why is blank represented here? Because you believe in X, Y, and Z, and I want to continue to be more inclusive. They talk about that when we're creating our syllabi for our classes, and we have to put a diversity clause and we have to put an inclusivity clause, and it's talking about what our values are and how we're going to accept every person that comes into our classroom, because we don't have control of that, right? You don't have control over who watches your content. But I think for me, I don't feel resistant about saying anything. I never feel like I need to hold back on anything. But I know that being aware of who my audience is and who could potentially watch it, I want to invite everyone in to be able to hear what I need to hear. So I think it's important that representation happens in different fields, and that's a huge reason why I too am getting my MFA in dance, because I before going to UCI, I don't know any other people that received their MFA in dance that were Filipino specifically, right, or Filipino American. So so did I answer your question?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like especially with all the the political climate, all the like social justice climate that's been going on. You're like sitting there shaking your head. Being Asian, being minorities, we're just like, what is taking so long? So like you're just like, I have to do something. Like I need to do something that I can like break down these social norms and break down these barriers and just kind of shine some light on more positivity and more inclusiveness. So that's another reason, like I follow your stuff. I'm just like, oh man, I can't wait for her to put that stuff out. Stop being a perfectionist and put it out.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So on a lighter note, so let's root it back, take a couple steps back with everything going on. For you, that's hopefully in a couple months or a year or however long it takes for everything to do what you need to do to get in your position. If I was just starting out, let's just take the 19-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old me. You Got Served just came out. I'm just like, oh snap, this is my jam. I think I could do it. I'm happy. I start dancing. I get mad. I start crumping. Like, what? This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is what I got to do. Social media is popping up. All these movies coming up. All the other things. Like, where do I start? Like, what do I do? Like, do I go to school for this? Like, is there a specific mentor? Is it like regional? Because I know there's like, from me as a layman, I'm just like, I guess I have to move to LA now. I guess I got to go to Hollywood and just like audition. Like, where do you start? Like, that's such a big question. But like, from your perspective, what would you say to that? As a wide-eyed young guy coming into dance.
Well, what's interesting is that I was able to speak to a couple of students about this a couple of days ago. And when I was thinking about it myself, I think, right, if you were going to say something to your parent or guardian when it comes to moving to a different place to pursue a career, you better have all that research ready. You have to do your research and know that times have changed, and when it comes to moving to a different city, there's a very clear financial aspect that if you're going to move to Los Angeles to pursue dance, so I'm specifically talking about Los Angeles and not New York, even though New York is a really great place to go to when it comes to opportunities in dance. But when I'm talking about the commercial dance industry in Los Angeles, you have to be really aware that the cost of living in Los Angeles is insane. So being prepared for that, so that you have financial peace about what you're doing, making sure that your IG and social media really represents who you are as a dancer and as a person in general, because you can get fired from something or not hired for something for your Instagram. And I know that for a fact because so many people have told me that that so and so has been fired because of their social media. So making sure that your IG and social media represents who you are at your best. And then also, and not fake. I'm being really clear about this. And then also putting together your resume, putting together, making sure that you have headshots that represent you, and then also making sure that you have a reel. When it comes to submitting for agents, because agents is the big thing. All of this is leading up to being able to send all that information to an agent. If you have a reel, that's also something where an agent can click on it, whether it's 60 to 90 seconds, that's all the time that they have. Realistically, they're not going to watch a 5-minute video in order to see if you're good to go. This is the commercial dance industry. And I remember, doing something for iHeartRadio. And the second time I did something for iHeartRadio is for this artist named Zayn Malik. And I was on a job that had only 2 rehearsals before we would actually perform it. So it was 2 8-hour rehearsals. The first rehearsal, they ended up taking everything that we learned and telling us to throw it out the window. So the second rehearsal was everything that we learned, and that's what was going to be shown. So, everything happens so quickly. And if the stuff that you're giving is taking too long, I feel like that'll stop you from getting that foot in the door. So I think just being efficient with your information and doing your research, right? That's a huge thing when it comes to planning for it. But also, starting out as an 18 or 19-year-old crumper, I would do my research to find out who is teaching crumping classes. The dancers that I work with are all completely different and want to go in different directions. And as someone that has been in the industry for 11 years, I know for a fact that the person next to me and everyone around me is going to be in a different area of dance. And that's what I love about it, right? You can be an educator. You can be a choreographer. Every person who starts off with dance is not going to be a dancer or a performer. You can either go and teach something at Disney and you could do something in a parade, or you can be the lead dancer for Beyonce or Megan Thee Stallion, But sometimes people want to be on that Disney show or be on that, The Greatest Showman. Yeah, there are so many different areas where you could do that, and that's what I appreciate about dance. So, yeah, as a young dancer, those 6 things are really important. So get the financials straight, make sure your IG and social media is clear, get that resume, your reel, and your headshots, and then submit that all to an agency. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said 2 things that I hold very dear to me. I tell this to a lot of people that I bounce ideas off. Is one of the things you said is just efficiency. It's one of those things that because there's so much attention on it now, music videos are at its peak right now. People are doing a lot more video work, video content. The demand for it's so high, and that just means the competition's so high. So if you're not efficient with your time, how fast you put out stuff, how long it takes you to do something, you're going to be left behind. And for me, coming from a video marketing standpoint, the first one to the party gets to drink first. The first one to the table, you get the biggest piece of the chicken. That's just how it is. So sometimes you may have to sacrifice some of that perfection just to get your content out. But you also kind of you have to know who you are, what your strengths are. Focus on your strengths. And then, if that's all you do, make that reel all about that. Be like, hey, I specialize in this. If anyone's going to hire me or if anyone can refer me to someone else, it's because I do this one thing very well, very efficient, and I'm reliable. If you can be known as that person, you're going to get work.
Yeah.
And it's just that's for me, when I started, I was just I'm gonna be known for editing and my sales. Because what I found out when I was in photography, I was just
Yeah.
like, man, photography is great and all. I love doing it. It just takes so much time. And from the business aspect, like if I can just continue to make sales and edit, I can hire out the work. So I'm just kind of figure out what is more efficient for me. And so I'm just like, that gives me a little bit more freedom to explore and learn new things.
Yeah.
And I cut you off. What were you gonna say about on that know your
No,
strengths thing?
it really stood out to me what you said about knowing who you are. So even if you're going to put out a music video and you're not a dancer, but you want to learn choreography and you do something and it is not excellent, the people are going to know. People are going to know. And it's very similar to models who try to do ballet, right? If you're not a ballerina, don't put yourself in ballet, in point shoes. So and the same goes for when it comes to if you're going to produce a music video, like you said, know what your strengths are. And if you're not a dancer, hire dancers. Please hire dancers and put them around you. And yeah, one of the most recent music videos that I've seen is Shakira, and obviously Shakira is an incredible dancer, and she's an amazing performer. But what I loved about it too is that she did put dance in it, and she put all these tutters around her that doing all this amazing choreography, and she did stuff, but she did stuff that she knew that she could learn and perform it well. She didn't do a style or try to learn something completely out of her realm. She knows what she can do as a performer because she is seasoned. And even if you're not seasoned, if you could just start with one thing to create your content, like you said, maybe it's just walking, and there's this moving shot and it looks amazing and you look amazing. So, I think it's being able to know who you are as an artist and to work with someone that'll produce that, like an amazing DP or an amazing editor that'll create something that shows you in your best light. So,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
think I'm so glad you touched on it. It's one of those things like when you get to like the upper levels of like professionalism or in the industry, if you
Yeah.
don't got it, people are gonna know. Like they're gonna know. You
Yeah.
can only fake it for
They
so
got like a
much.
sore thumb.
Yeah, and one
Yep.
of those things, it's a great example. I don't want to say who they are, but these guys are like famous TikTok dancers, and they
Yeah.
auditioned for World of Dance, and they're like, "Oh man, we're gonna make it. These are gonna be awesome. They have a huge following." And they're just like, "Oh, I did my TikTok dances on the World of Dance," and the judges just tore them apart. They're like, "This is great comedy, but this isn't dance." I was just like, "Damn, J Lo just tore
Right.
you
And
off."
and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying about doing your research. When you
Right.
don't do your research, it shows. It shows. You know that if there is someone that says that they want to be a photographer and they're like, "Yeah, let me put out these pictures that I just took on my iPhone 10," and they look flat, you'll know. You
Right.
understand the resolution. You understand the editing. You understand like the ins and outs of what it means to create something of quality. And I don't know. Have you ever seen? I've seen this sketch of a horse where half of it is drawn beautifully and so intricately, but then because someone didn't want to pay for it, then it's like this sketch that was created like it was by a 3-year old or a very, old,
Right.
young person when it comes to that stuff. But, just imagine something beautifully drawn out and then this weird sketch that looks like it was half done with your non-dominant hand. You know what I mean? And that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get if you don't do your research and if you don't want to invest in something that will be of good quality. I think, yeah. So
Yeah.
obviously I'm very passionate about this.
That's why I wanted you on the show, of course. So, and the tough part is too. It's just like when you're looking forward, you're just like you do have these people that are super passionate,
Yeah.
super talented. A lot of people,
Yeah.
a lot of my I'd say counterparts, I'd say they're so much more talented and so much more passionate than I am. It's just
Mm,
they're either just all in their head, or they're just afraid to jump in or just start. You're just like, oh
yeah.
man, come on, I just need you to start. You're gonna be something special. You're just
Yeah.
like, oh man, so many. I always say this to my other ones. Like, there's the thing that hurts me the most is when I see someone that loses their drive or gives up way too soon. You're just like, oh man, you're right there. But there's only so much you can do to motivate someone. They just have to
Yeah.
have it in themselves, and it's just like, man, that happens a lot more frequent. And I think especially with the times, the increased safety restrictions, the big boom with the industry, but now everything Cali. I think the big thing is like the hospitals, because they're at capacity. A lot of
Yeah.
productions are being stopped in those specific areas, so work is going
Yeah.
down, and
Right.
just the opportunities are going down. Uh, Building off of that, like, how do you think this is going to affect the overall industry or the art or the business side of
Mm,
it in the long term? From the
yeah.
aspect that I think that this pandemic is going to make people, the ones that are going to succeed, so much sharper, so much stronger, because this is like such a weird time. If you're not coming out of this with your
Yeah.
guns blazing, like with I'm just going to knock the shit out the park mentality, you're gonna be
Yeah.
so sad because you're left behind. Like, can you give me your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And when it comes to the pandemic, it's making me think about what really matters. And what really matters to me is really evolving in my craft. And I think coming out of this, well, just in general, when it comes to artists, I feel like artists and creatives are some of the most resilient people and problem solvers. And that's why we're needed, right? Because we we elevate anything that we're a part of. We bring up the environment in the room. We make people laugh. We make people cry. We make people feel. And there's so many aspects about it when it comes to problem solving that is so important and translates across all disciplines, right? I'm not just talking about being a dancer. I'm talking about being an artist in the time of COVID. And I think it's really important to hone in on your tribe and and just to write everything down of what you're going to do and try to map it out. I feel like even if you need to take a second to do that, um, if you feel overwhelmed, because I know that I've done that. I know because my word of the year that God told me to specifically is start. And I just need to start. I need to start all these things that I've been saying that I've wanted to do for so long. And and I did it because I didn't think I was excellent. I'm always that I'm that overachiever that wants to be excellent at what I do. And then it comes to a point of, when are you going to actually start this? It's to try it out. And but I think out of this pandemic, I think a lot of people who are really serious about what they want to do are going to shine through that and continue to go through. And I think a lot of people are going to fight as much as they can to continue, because the motivation is going to come through self-discipline. That's it. Like I've been hearing that a lot from a lot of undergrad students who are just trying to make it through the next day, and it's really
Right.
hard. Can you imagine being a senior in college and trying to graduate through this screen?
Yeah.
It's screen, and I feel so much. I feel so much for those people. I feel so much for my colleagues, and I feel so much for the faculty that I'm working with, because they're trying to go through it too. And but that self discipline is really going to, making sure that you have your morning routine, making sure that you have your night routine, making sure that you're balancing that time management with self care, and making sure that you're having fun while doing that, and it's not just a chore every time you go into your work. I want my work to be fun,
Right.
and I want to be around people who want to talk about this stuff and be real about the struggles of it, but also the fun part of it that we get to celebrate as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that resiliency, I believe yeah, that's what's going to get us through it.
Yeah,
So
and you touched on it. I mean, especially it's one of those things that's just starting is the hard part. I know, like for for me, it's like what really helped for me. I'm not sure where I saw it, but I read it somewhere. Like the main reason people are afraid to start is because the hurdle looks so high. And one of the best things you can do is just break down that one goal into small achievable goals. So like for example, this podcast, it's like, all right, I'm going to start a podcast next week. Then when I did the research looking at all these websites, what you need to start a podcast. I'm just like, no, I don't want to do this podcast anymore. It's like, this seems like a lot of work. But then what I ended up doing, I was like, you know what? By next week, I'm gonna have a script. The week after that, I'm gonna figure out my talking points. The week after that, I'm gonna figure out what equipment I'm gonna need. After that, I'm gonna figure out what type of guests I want. And then
so
those
great.
small goals led into the big goal. So it just can't like added little steps, little rungs on the ladder to reach that
Yeah.
goal. So it's like it's huge. So now I'm just taking that mentality to move forward. Like I break it down like a video game because I'm a nerd.
Great.
Like when you play a video game, the your XP like your experience bar. It's not just like start and finish game. No, it's like no, you got to be
Yeah.
level 1. Then you got to be level 2 with the sword. You got to do level 3 with your magic. It's kind of getting nerdy, but like that's how it is. That's why people are so nerd out about it because they're like, oh man, I'm constantly achieving things. These small goals are huge wins in the long run. So building off
Yeah.
that, and because we are nearing our time limit, I
Yeah.
will just have our ending question. Uh,
Yeah.
Building off the goal and the step ladder example I used, what are your goals for 2021, uh, especially as far as your teaching and your business and your career?
Yeah, so a huge thing about what I do is really focused on creating curriculum to learn commercial dance history. So that's a huge that's a huge thing in and of itself. But basically, I want to teach about what it means to pursue a career in Los Angeles and all of the amazing people and teachers that have been a part of the journey post the golden age of musicals. So that's starting off like in the 80s when it comes to um, Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and all these people who created all these amazing music videos leading up to the huge music video boom in the 2000s, which I'm all about. And that was everything that I loved. And honestly was a huge part of what inspired me besides movie musicals. And so I'm hoping to just be really specific about the curriculum that I want to teach for dance history and be able to get a job in a university setting to be able to teach this and to share with people all these amazing people who have been a part of history in order to create these job opportunities for people that have been a part of the not only the Los Angeles industry but specifically in the Western hemisphere in the Western world. And then besides that, I am also researching options of PhD programs where I can get my PhD in dance because I feel like there is a lot of dance that has not been written about that needs representation. So whether that's jazz or whether that's hip hop, but I just really, really want to do that research to give a voice to the people who are not written about. And I think that's really important. So that's where I'm starting off with now. Really,
Awesome.
really
I
light
can't wait.
things.
Well, that's the thing too. Like what's really huge now in like video marketing and social media is like make instead if you don't some people are just carving out their own lane. Like what I
Yeah,
suggest to people, start that course now so you can just present it to everyone. Be like, hey, I already have the course ready. If you don't accept me,
yeah,
I'm just gonna put it on a website and I'm just gonna charge people my own. And I know
yeah,
people are gonna that have a love for it. They're gonna appreciate it. So
yeah.
I just want to say that's awesome. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you and future
You
episodes
too.
of you going on. I can't wait. Like this is so fun, and I just want to We're gonna have to wrap it up. I just want to raise my glass to you. I hope you know I've been slowly refilling this, so it doesn't. It's not
That's
that I've just
amazing.
been slowly drinking it. So I just want to say I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. I had so much fun. And if you will, can you just thank everyone that's watching and everyone that's gonna watch the replay, and let them know where they can find you.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening. My name is Beverly Bautista, and I just want to thank Jay Becco for everything and for inviting me onto this amazing show. You can reach me on Facebook at Beverly Jane Bautista, or you can reach me on my Instagram at Beverly Jane B.
Perfect.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers to you. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks, Bev.
Thanks, Jay.